Let me back this thing up then.
Mm.
Shaniqua, you did not have sex until you were 45 years old.
45.
45.
45. Yes.
So let's unpack that because I'm thinking maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's not. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe there was, regardless if it was a personal reasoning, it was a spiritual reasoning, it was a whatever. Men just suck. I don't know what it is, but why did you not? Why did you not? Or why did you choose not to have sex until you were 45 years old? Let's talk about it.
I think it was.
Hey, what's up, fam, man? It's your boy Kev and
Tanya.
yeah, man, we here with another episode of Couples Connect, man. And man, it's gonna be a good one as always, man. We're gonna get right into this thing, baby. You ready to go?
Ready, man.
All right, baby, let's get it. Man, we got none other than the one, the only Shaniqua Rischer on the podcast. What's up, buddy? What's good? What's good? Everything all right with you?
Life is doing good. I'm good today. So, hey, I take it day by day.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about, man. Hey, well, we are excited, man. Every now and then, this is a couples podcast, but every now and then, we connect with an individual who has an amazing story to kind of share about their own personal journey that kind of relates or connects to, relationships and stuff like that. And so this is one of those moments where we're interested to hear your story, man. And I'm excited about getting into it.
I am too.
So let's get into it. So check it out. The topic today, man, is pretty interesting because it's not something you hear often, right? You don't hear it too often, and and we want to dig into because we feel like there's more to the story than just the actual topic itself, but there's more to it. So let's get into it. So, Shaniqua, you have not. Let's go. We're going straight in. You ready? You have not. You have not had sex.
Correction.
Okay. Correct me, please.
I was 45 before I started having, starting. It's before I had sex. I can't say starting because there was 45 and then there was nothing. There's been nothing, but I was 45 before I had sex.
Let me back this thing up then. Shaniqua, you did not have sex until you were 45 years old. 45.
Yes.
So let's unpack that because I'm thinking maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's not. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe there was, regardless if it was a personal reasoning, it was a spiritual reasoning, it was a whatever. Men just suck. I don't know what it is, but why did you not? Why did you not? Or why did you choose not to have sex until you were 45 years old? Let's talk about it.
I think it was something that just really developed over time. When I was younger, when I was in college, I think it probably stemmed from just low self-esteem and insecurities. And I've always been great friends with men. That's one thing I've always had, great male friends. And so even in high school, I was always that chick that just had great friends that were men. And so I think that because I was always in a friendship position, more so as in undergrad and college, I just struggled with self-esteem. And then the men that saw me or the men that were attracted to me, I would freeze up. I would run away from, literally, I've run away from a man before. I would freeze up because I just didn't understand or how to deal with them approaching me. Sometimes men have always been very sexual towards me. And viewed me in a very sexual manner. But dealing with that and from a low self-esteem standpoint, I think initially that's where I was, where sex was just something that didn't happen and I didn't necessarily have dates. And again, the men that were interested in me, I had low self-esteem, so I couldn't necessarily accept that they were interested in me. And then in my 20s, um, I started my walk with God and my walk from a ministry standpoint and my calling. And even though I rejected my calling all through my 20s, actually, rejecting my calling, there was still something that was there and that was in me that I just didn't feel that having sex outside of marriage is what I wanted to do. And at that time, I pretty much had committed within myself that I was waiting for marriage. As I got older in my 30s, um, I was no longer necessarily waiting for marriage. I was more so waiting for love. And I want to be clear, I never had penetrative sex, but there were moments that I was intimate throughout those years with men, as far as kissing and all of the other things. But I never would let it get to that point where I would fully commit to sex because it was not anything that I felt emotionally for those men. There was no love for me, from me and for me. The markers that I wanted to see or I thought that I would see from a man that loved me and cared for me. And so the older I got, all of those different things, because the self-esteem was resolved in my mid-20s. I started thinking I was the ish, and I probably ain't stopped since then because I saw myself as fearfully and wonderfully made.
Right?
But my faith in my relationship and my walk with God and me understanding and knowing what I wanted from a relationship, that really became the bedrock of my decision not to have sex.
When you say self-esteem, usually
Mhm.
when a woman especially is dealing with self-esteem, she does the opposite of what you did. You know what I mean? When she's dealing with
Mhm.
low self-esteem, she's actually out there looking for love and would do anything for it. And one of them is sex, right? So that she can feel fulfilled or feel loved. But you did the totally opposite by keeping yourself to yourself, right?
I think part of that from a self-esteem standpoint is because when I was younger, I used to struggle with quote unquote shrinking myself. So I'm 6 feet. I'm plus size, fun size, whatever you want to call it. Um, so every time I've walked into a room, I've always been a presence, even as a young child. And so for me, I think the low self-esteem was rooted in number one, I'm always was sticking out. I didn't look like other people. I wasn't conventional as far as my body type with other people, so instead of me looking for things from an outward expression, it was natural for me to try to shrink myself, um, and lose my voice at some instance. I tend to be very I'm not tend to, I'm a very frank person. And as I've always been that. But when I went through a phase in my college years and in my 20s where I wasn't as outgoing. I wasn't as frank. I wasn't as loud. I wasn't at the fully myself. I wasn't my authentic self. So I think what you're describing why it didn't manifest in me is because by nature I already stand out. I'm already an outgoing person. So for me the antithesis of that was how can I shrink myself? And I think I did that unconsciously.
So the height was one of the insecurities that you dealt with and struggled with?
It's funny because I've never had an issue with my height, but other people always called attention to my height. Like shorter men love to climb me. In college, there would be friends of mine, they would see me and they would try to climb me. And I'd be like, get off of me. And literally, I mean like climb me. And so I've never necessarily had an issue with my height, and it's never stood out to me until someone has said something to me. Like I have a mole on my face. I don't see a mole on my face until someone says, "You have a mole on your face." And I'm like, "Oh, I do." And so from a height standpoint, it wasn't anything for me that I was uncomfortable with. It was just who I was. But when someone else called attention to it, then I was hypersensitive to it. I remember being in the mall many times with my friends. And when I'm with my friends, I don't realize how much taller I am than them. But you know how you walk in a store and you glance into the little mirrors, and I'm like, oh wow, there's like a 6 inch difference between me and you. Or I remember one of my friends, we laugh about this, and I'm like, I can't stand this story. But she laughs because when we first met and got on the yard, we went in the women's restroom in one of the older dorms, and literally I towered above the stall. And she was like, "Are you standing on the toilet?" So like that's literally the first thing she says to me. And I'm like, "Girl, why would I be standing on this toilet?" But so I was so used to people calling attention, but it wasn't anything that I had an issue with when it comes to height. It was always someone else's issue. And I think the older I got, and even now, I don't care what someone else's issue is. That's your issue. That's not mine. And so when I tell people, and I said it an interview before, and people are like, "You're so intimidating," and I'm like, "I'm not intimidating. You were intimidated, and that's your issue to have. That has nothing to do with me." And so I just have that mentality now about it. So it is what it is.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back and just talk. You mentioned that men, look at you as a sexual,
Oh
being, or
yeah,
just was
in a sexual
in a
yeah,
way.
sexual way. Men do that to all women. They
yeah. So
they look at
here's
all
the
women
deal.
sexually.
I know that, but for me,
You
a
don't.
long time I struggled with it because I felt like mine was just a little too much. And I would ask friends like, "Has someone approached you this way?" Like I had a man one time come up to me in Papados that I did not know and whisper in my ear, "Do you know the things that I could do to your body?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute." Well, so you ain't even tried to introduce me. And I've had several instances like that where I've been overtly sexualized. And even, because I am such a large woman from a height standpoint, "Oh, you a stallion." Like I've always gotten extreme comments. So I understand that men look at women from a sexual standpoint, but I've always gotten extremes. So because I've heard that from men before, but then when I start telling them and things, they be like, "Yeah, no, that's a little different, Shaniqua." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I get all the time." And so I can't tell you the number of men through the years who have made some type of, not "I want to get to know you," not "I want to," or "I appreciate who you are," or "I want to, you know, engage with you from a dating standpoint." Is always been, "You are something to be conquered. You are something that I want to know sexually." And so that's where when I use that language, that's what I mean. Now, if everyone has that experience, so be it. But I've done this poll, and I don't think people have the levels that I have had.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
be wrong. You tell me. Am I wrong?
I think they see you as a, because sometimes men can see women as like a playground, right? Of
Mhm.
some sort. And for you, like you said, it's something they want to conquer. And you
It's like a
are,
challenge.
it's a challenge. Yes.
I
Exactly what,
am that. I am that.
exactly what I was about to say, a challenge, and they see you as a playground. But you've been so strong to not fall for their traps and their words. And how have you stayed so strong? Like growing up, right, in your family with your siblings, if you have any, your mom and dad,
Mm,
did they talk to you about purity before
no.
God or anything
No,
like
we
that?
didn't talk about sex or anything like that. It wasn't talked about, but it wasn't hidden. It was just, "Hey, 5th grade, you go through sexual education." I don't remember having any conversations from my parents about the birds and the bees, or with my brother or sister. And I have a brother and a sister. I'm the baby. I don't remember anything like that, but there wasn't purity culture. We didn't grow up in the church. Um, it was nothing like that for me. It just was something that developed, and that I became. And it's funny because when people like, I would never say that I was so strong with this. I, I'm a strong-willed person, and so I think that me being strong, me willed, and me knowing what I want and me knowing what I deserve probably gives more credence to the decisions I've made versus me being like, "Oh, you fine," but like I'm not tempted by fine. I'm tempted by fine, but I ain't tempted by fine. Like, and then the fact that I have so many really great male friends, and I've had so many great male friends as well as female friends, but I've seen men in their interactions with women, and I knew what I didn't want for myself. I knew I wasn't finna get played like that, or I knew not to fall for the okey doke. And I got a smart mouth. Well, I won't say smart mouth. I'm very witty, and so there are things that I'm like, yeah, player, but we're not gonna do this. Or oh, you think you can top me? Oh, okay, you ain't met me yet. And so when it comes to the challenge that I'm men may presume me to be, that tickled me because I'm like, oh, you really think that you can break me or you can do this. And then that mentality, that part of Shaniqua would come out and I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, no.
So tell me this, like going back to I want to go back to the very beginning, like in the early,
Hmm.
because when we all grow up, we reach a certain point of, I don't know, puberty, where we hormones driving in full gear and stuff like that. So early on, now we're talking maybe before you even hit a true adulthood, right? Maybe maybe what, 18 on down to, 18, 17, 16, in those
Hmm.
earlier years, when I'm pretty sure maybe you had friends that was experimenting and doing different things, maybe. Um, how how was how was that life for you in your teenager years and about to hit into your 20s? What was there any pressures or anything mentally that really kind of shut you off from the fact of knowing, hey, sex is really not what I want right now?
I think so. First of all, the day I graduated from high school was my 16th birthday. It was 16th or 17th. I think it was me turning 17 maybe on my graduation day. 2 months later, I was at UT in college. So around the same time that most people probably would have been having sex in their senior year and all of that, my senior year was my junior year. So I went into a situation where I was the youngest in amongst my friends in these situations, but I've always just been observant and watched things. And so my friends, some of them were sexually active and some of them weren't. And but I never felt pressure that I needed to be that. I'm not saying that I didn't experiment or have my first quote unquote soft sexual encounter with a guy in college. I did, but even then it was self-conscious, self-esteem that kicked in. And I don't look, I like you, but you haven't shown me what I need to be shown in order to make this decision with you. And I think that that's been the bedrock of everything for me. Even if as I've gotten older into this age and I recognize how I attach to people or specifically men, um, my attachment style, anxious avoidance. So even how I recognize how I attach with romantic relationships with men, it's always still comes down to what do I deserve to be treated like? Like I have never been able to move past that. I can't move past that. If you're not showing up to the level that I deserve and need to be treated, then it's a no-go. Because I just I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to settle and sell myself short with that. I can't even conceive it.
So help us understand your this thing about your self conscious and your low self esteem.
Mhm.
Because I'm still trying to figure it out. So you because you sound so confident, like you sound so ready, so self aware, all of that. Um, but yet I hear you say that you had low self esteem. Was it because not just because you're tall, But did you have body image problems besides
It
just
was
being
weight because
small?
'cause I've always been
Okay.
overweight, so weight was also an issue, but I didn't realize how fine I was in college. I'm like, "Oh, I was fine back in college." I was a size 14 in college, but I was a size 14 in my freshman, sophomore, by junior year, I had started getting bigger, probably like so size 22, or well, 18, 20. But my friends were like size 4. So, by today's standard, I was a brick house to size 14. I was it. But back then, I wasn't necessarily that. And so, viewing myself through the lens, and then just even from we look at women now and our bodies, the average American woman, we're larger now. So I was an outlier from a physical standpoint, not just with height, but with weight, with so many of those things. So for me, self esteem, I didn't have it. People didn't know I didn't have it unless you really started to talk to me and see my insecurities or, Shaniqua, why you running away from a man, or this man wants to talk to you. But like literally, there's this boy in college, fine, fine, fine football player. And I had a shirt, and my friends and I, they clown me about this because I still swear by this. It was a multicolored shirt, and each line had different widths and lengths. So I mean, different widths to it. And so he said, "Hey, you in the stripes." And I looked away, and they were like, "Shaniqua, he's talking to you." And I was like, "He's not talking to me." They were like, "You got the striped shirt on out of us." I was like, "This not striped, this horizontals." And they were like, "Chick, what's the difference?" And I was like, "No, that's not stripes." And so they were like, "I cannot believe you." But I never could conceive that someone saw attraction in me, or a beautiful woman in me, even at that age. I just didn't. And I think the self-assuredness that of what I speak with today is because I had to grapple with myself and who I am and who I've developed into. And then Psalms 139, fearfully and wonderfully made, like that around late 20s, there's just like a metamorphosis that took place within me. And it had nothing to do with the physical, but all about the spiritual, emotional, and mental. And once that was there, there's been no going back. And so that's just kind of, I think that's the dichotomy that you see, is that there was a before me, how you probably be like, there's a before Jesus in a
Mhm.
person, and then there's the after Jesus. And so part of my journey and my faith journey was God working with me, speaking to me like, "I have formed you. I have created you. This is who you are. This is your body. Accept who you are. I see you as beautiful, and walk in it." And so that's what people see now, but it was a process. And so that's why people kind of find it like, "I can't believe that you were like this at one point in time." But I was. But even when I was, it wasn't overt. Like, you really had to have talked to me to get and understand, like, wait a minute, she doesn't quite see herself, this way. But now I am who I am, and I accept me, and no one can tell me otherwise. And that even comes to, like, you know, the different platforms of what people say about me. I care about what my friends and my nucleus, my family may say, but no one can speak worse to me than I've already spoken to myself. And I've already conquered and continue to conquer, because it's not 100% my own mindset through the word, and combated by what God has already said about me. So why would I let what you say about me disrupt me and my peace? Because I done already dealt with that. You can't say nothing bad about me, or you can't say anything literally worse than I've already said or thought about myself. So I'm not going to believe you. I struggle with believing me.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah. So, that's interesting.
Sorry.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, because here's the thing. I think, because this conversation tonight is not anything about, it's weird when people be like, if you don't drink or you don't smoke, it's like, and they look at you like, you don't drink,
Like something
you
wrong
don't
with you.
smoke, like something wrong with you, right?
Mhm.
I'm like, no, I don't drink, I don't smoke, right?
And
And
he
so,
don't.
and well, I don't do none of those things. But so this session is not about us looking at you like, wow, you ain't had sex until you like, what's wrong with you?
Oh, no.
It's not that, right? It's just that is, just not something you hear about every day. And actually, like when we did the initial conversation yesterday with you, like my wife, she applauded you, man. I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing that you was able to sustain and hold, yourself pure and for so long. So it's
Thank
a beautiful thing. And I think more than anything, that's why we wanted to have this conversation, because we wanted to highlight the beauty of being able to sustain and be pure, for so long. And like you said, not that
She
you
looking, she's like, wait,
not
hold on.
oh well, unless you got some stuff you want us that happen
Well,
in between. But
so it's funny because no one ever asked me certain questions. And so I'll,
right.
I'll preemptively say some things and that may prompt some of your questions.
Yes.
You know, externally looking, it's a beautiful thing. It was not an easy journey and it wasn't a beautiful journey either. Um there was a cost to the decisions that I made to not have sex.
Like what?
There are tangible costs that I feel that I've paid, um, from a relationship standpoint, from a body standpoint, and so I think it's a really nuanced conversation that most people never really pull back the layers to ask. So when I hear people say it's such a beautiful thing, I would never have described my journey. I still won't describe this journey as being beautiful. I won't, because I know what this journey was. It was a real journey. It was a sacrificial journey, and it was a journey of obedience. And obedience isn't always pretty. Um, and so yeah, so when you were saying that, I think from an outward standpoint, people look at the quote unquote pomp and circumstance of it, but there were some moments in there that shaped me, that have still shaped me, and things that I've had my reckonings with and I've had my peace with.
Yeah.
So can you share some of that to make us understand why it wasn't, and you don't have to go into great
Oh no, I
detail.
don't mind. I so one of the things, first of all, interacting with men, that's a deterrent. Even if you're trying to get to know someone, most men want to try. And they like, ooh, I'm not necessarily want to go further with you. Well, until you, and so it's like a catch-22. I don't want to go further with you until I start having sex, but I'm not going to have sex with you until you show me these certain things. So it becomes a catch-22 when it comes to relationships with men, specifically because they're not men tend to make emotional connections once they have had the physical side. Um, Now, men can make emotional connections from a friendship standpoint, but then they're going to as put you in this particular box. And so they're more vulnerable with you from a friendship standpoint and emotive with you from a friendship standpoint. But if they're trying to get to know you from a relationship standpoint, generally then there's some type of physicality that has to take place. And so in order for that mechanism of intimacy to kick in for men, they want to see the physical intimacy. But for me as a woman who had never had sex and wasn't having sex, I needed to have that emotional intimacy kick in order for the physical intimacy to kick in. So it became a catch-22, and sometimes it just was what it was. Like, okay, this isn't going to work out because I'm not going to budge, and then they're like, well, I'm not going to budge. So that's what that was. That's one thing. Um,
So is that what
there
caused,
are.
did
I'm
that
sorry. Go
cause
ahead.
some pain for you because you really maybe liked this person?
Yeah, I would like certain men and want certain things from them, but the relationship wouldn't necessarily progress at the level that I wanted it to, because for them they would look like you're stubborn, you're not giving in this. And I'm like, it's not that I'm stubborn and I'm not giving, but you're not showing the emotional intimacy that I need, that's going to make me be more secure with you and to trust you with my body. Um and to trust you with my heart and my mind, because I think I am capable of separating and trusting someone with my body and not my mind and my heart and my soul and my spirit. I think I'm very capable of that, but I never wanted to do that because if I did that, then that would put me in operating in a mode that was outside of the woman that God had called me to be.
Can we just stay right here for a minute? Can we just
Sure.
do this? Because you said something so very important that most people or most women and maybe some men won't get. When you said about, yes, I can give my body away. That's easy. But and you can accept that however you word it, but it's the emotional connection
Mhm.
that you're not ready for, right? That some men are not ready for, some women are not ready for when it comes to those type of relationships. But I don't think that we as women and a lot of women, most women don't see that. We just see, I like this person, I love this person. You don't understand what we're really getting ourselves into. Am I saying this correctly? Like, am I making
You are.
a point on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think what happens with some women, I'm not gonna say all because things have changed now. Imma get mine, you gonna get yours, we good.
Yeah.
That's some mentalities. But I think a lot of women exchange sex for relationship, companionship, emotional intimacy with a man and expect sex to be the doorway to that. And men have used it that way as well. And so it has become a commodity that men have been like, if you want this, this is what I want from you. And women have given that in certain instances. And I think that that may be what you just explained or what you're stating. Correct
Mhm.
me if I'm wrong. But for me, I didn't want that. That's not the way that I wanted it to be.
Yeah. It's kind of like the saying, like they say, you know, men need sex to feel loved, and then but women need love to want to have sex. You know,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
it's just one of those things where it's a give and take. Like, but if neither one of them is, if the man ain't getting sex, then he's kind of disconnected. So the women like, well, you know what I'm saying? It's like, well, you ain't meet my emotional needs, or you not connecting with me in a way, so you don't make me want to have sex, right? So
And
nobody's kind of getting what they want, and it's just kind of like, everybody just kind of it's not a win-win situation because no one's really intentionally trying to work on giving the other one what they need.
and what I'm about to say, I know most men would disagree with. I think both of those premises is wrong. I don't think from an alignment standpoint of what God has created, because number one, you have to understand we are living in a falling world. So a
Yeah,
lot of the norms that we accept as norms is not by God's design. It is God's permissive will, but it has not his perfect design and his perfect will. And so I think men have got it into their minds and they separate sex and love and they separate I can do this and I can do that. That's not by perfect design. That is just a learned behavior and you just may be better at it. Because men, when they get their heart broken when they're younger, that's when their disconnect happens. When you hear people say a man will fall in love probably one, maybe two good times, but a woman can do it over and over again. But if you start looking at the genesis of that from a root standpoint and then separate that at a younger age, men then separate love from sex and then they continue to repeat those behaviors. So what you just said, so many people believe to be true in fact. I personally don't believe that that's scriptural, and I don't think that is by God's perfect design.
So
I don't,
mhm.
I don't necessarily think that, and I wasn't indicating that it was scriptural.
No,
But
no, I get that. I'm just
yeah,
saying that that's what
yeah,
that mentality is pervasive throughout the entire world when it
yeah.
comes to what men need and what women need. And I'm just saying the premise, I think we both need it.
Right. I think we both need it, but from the initial standpoint of what a man seeks and desires and wants, it will always use it. Nine out of 10 times, it's going to always be sex.
Mhm.
That is factual. That, you know what I'm saying? The men in nature, it's in a man's nature to just want to seek sex from women, right? Now that's not to say that they still don't desire the connection and all the other things, but it's very It's you'll find more men that's not really connecting emotionally. We've
Mhm.
had that issue and still working on even with the emotional connection portion of it, right? So the fact that what I'm saying is men want sex, and it's not so much that they're seeking the emotional connection. So the woman is struggling, like it maybe getting the bad end of the deal because they're not getting that emotional connection that they want, and that's what usually would prompt a woman to feel safe, feel connected to a man to maybe want to have sex with him, right?
Mhm.
So that's pretty much all I'm saying. And look, I love the fact that you disagree. We could have some friendly debate, but
No, I don't necessarily. I don't disagree.
but I do believe that's to me that's kind of factual, just based off what I me being a man, first of all, and then just knowing and talking and having friends just and even since the podcast, just connecting with so many brothers, sex is something that they desire. And usually the emotional connection component is not always available for a man to give it to a woman. So she's kind of and my wife, she is a everything I'm saying is we live in it. Where we've lived it, we live in it, right? From an emotional connection, wanted to so she can feel the love and feel more connected to me to where she want to have sex. And then my thing is more of a sexual being, right? So I just think it's a different thing. That's not to say it's a right or wrong or it's a bad or good. I just think that's just kind of it's just something in our nature. That's just how we are kind of wired a little bit. And now, from a scripture standpoint, you may have something else to say, but I think just on a, you know, that's just my
I
take on it.
I don't disagree. I think what I'm saying is that it's both nature and nurture. That's all I'm saying,
Yeah.
is that it is a man's nature to desire that physicality and that sex, but a large part of that also is nurture because of the environment, because of humanity, time, all of that. And I think that a large part of a woman's nature, I'm a very sexual woman. I'm a very sexual being. So when we going back to when I think how men approach me, I also think men see things in me, things that are very much in me. I am a sexual woman. I think that men pick up on that as well. And so I think both women and men have, when it comes to the act of sex, I just think it's both nature and nurture, but because of societal norms, it's unbalanced in how it manifests.
So let me go back. I got to ask this question since you just said
Mhm.
it. How do you feel that men pick up on the fact that you are a sexual being?
Energy.
'Cause I walk into a room sometimes. Sometimes
But you
as a
but you
woman,
say
you walk in and
they
you
like
know because sometimes you walk in and you like, I know that I look good. I know that I'm that. You exude that confidence. I am aware when I walk into the I know when I'm in those moods, the men come, say something, whatever. I know. I just know. I don't know if I can explain it. I don't know, Tanya, you tell me. Like, do you understand what I'm saying by that? I just think that there are moments then in a woman. Let me back up. A woman who knows herself and is confident in her skin and in who she is. I think that when she walks into a room, she understands the energy that she gives off.
Yeah.
And energy may not necessarily be sexual in nature, but energy is a basis of attraction.
Yeah.
So that let me clean that up when I say that.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just like,
that makes a little more sense because to try to determine, I don't know if I've ever just a woman and a woman president know that they are a sexual being unless they gave me a reason to think that they're a
Mhm.
sexual being by maybe the way they talk, the way
Well, I'll say
they say
energy. I'll
something,
say the
or
energy, the presence, that.
well, we're all sexual beings, right? I mean, even
Mhm.
just being human, we're all sexual beings. But it's like you said, Shaniqua, that it's the energy, it's the confidence. And certain women have an aura about them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that when you say sexual, that, oh, I'm walking in a room because I'm looking to have sex with somebody. It doesn't mean that. It's more of
Mhm.
like that sensuality that women have. that men pick up. It's just like a man who walks into the room with confidence. And I don't care. You can be the biggest, the shortest, the tallest, the skinny. If you walk in there with confidence and there are women in that room, they're going to pick up on that type of energy more than they will pick up on your look, the way that you look. And it's the same thing for women. We just have, when we are confident in our skin and we're walking with our head up, I mean, you just
I,
give
I
off that energy.
I guess I get that. I totally get that. You know, walking into a room, being confident. I guess it was just the verbiage. You know, when you
The
say like it's
Mhm.
sexual, like a woman, a man can just know a woman is a sexual being, a sexual. That piece of it was a little bit, you know,
It's like today when I met you, just to
mhm,
give you an example. We met up for a meeting today.
that's different.
It's it is different because I'm your wife,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But at the same time, you were a little turned on by how you saw me, how I was dressed, when I was walking up to you, and the things that you said to me. And even before we parted each other, there was something you said to me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
You
It's
know that's
because, yes, I'm your wife, but at the same time, there was an energy I exude to you that made you say what you said.
it was the energy, but it was really with them jeans you had on. I mean, I mean, you had,
But it could be very well, but that's also a part of it.
yeah,
I might have on some great jeans one day,
yeah.
and those jeans elicit a response. And I think that in some ways, for me, two things happen as far as again the before and after from a self-esteem standpoint. I used to run from those things. I used to shrink in. Why are you looking at me? Why am I getting this type of response? Now it's more of an accepting. I don't run from it, but I also don't encourage it. Um, and so, but it's just, okay, you whatever energy I've given off has elicited some type of response from you. And it could have just been some great jeans that day. Because there was something that you saw. She's beautiful. Your wife is beautiful. She's stunning. There's something that you saw the very first time that you saw her. There was some energy. And what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to sow any negative seeds for
No,
when I say this,
I don't know.
but you're not the first man to have picked up on that energy.
Yeah,
You're not the first man to have looked at her and found her beautiful, stunning. You're not the first man. You're lucky to be able to say, you know what, I want to cultivate and have this relationship. And so that's all that I'm saying. Men are very visual creatures, and men also, you all are intuitive I think, on a different level. So you do pick up on a woman and be like, oh, her. So, like, even the terminology we were using earlier was, I may be looked at as a challenge to a man. That means that that man is picking up on some form of energy that elicits in him a dominant response of, she's a challenge. That's all I'm talking about.
yeah,
Whatever you want to call that energy, it's something.
for
And
sure.
I used to run from that, and now I no longer run from it. I just accept it as a part of who I am.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I mean, because even when even though we are married, even in the house, there's still a vibe and an energy sometimes when we know when I can connect with her and I know where she's at. Right. And then, you know, vice versa. Right. It's
yeah.
an energy. And it's without even actually verbally saying something to one another. But you could tell the energies, you could tell the vibe, you know, right?
Mhm.
So I definitely get that. I definitely see that. So
I want to go back a little bit before we go forward.
Mhm.
So, one of the reasons why I'm loving this conversation, because we have two girls and they are teenagers and they're about to start college. And we live in a world where sex sells, right? You turn on Instagram or social media, and the first thing you're gonna see is some woman's boobs, some woman's whatever. Sex sells. Um, and I'm loving this conversation because it just goes to show you that you do not have to give your body away to any and everybody. There's nothing wrong with saving yourself for someone. Now, I don't know, how that has worked for you in the sense of you wanted to have children and at a certain age, about a certain age, or anything like that. but still this conversation is really good to have. And I love that you have so much confidence in yourself and so much love for yourself because you've done the work on yourself. And that right there is beautiful.
Thank you.
That is beautiful. And so are you.
Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by Just Like You Hair Care Products.
Y'all, my hair has grown so much, so much. Look at that. Look at that, guys. And I even colored my hair since we've been out for the COVID. And look at that. You can see my roots. The black is coming back in. My hair is really growing. And I have to, just truly give a shout out to these products. Just Like You, hair growth and oil scalp. See that? Yeah. Like my hair is really, I'm amazed. Look at that. Y'all look at my hair. Yeah. I am excited.
Just Like You, stimulating hair growth and scalp oil has changed my life in many different ways. It's made my hair softer, thicker, my scalp isn't as dry as it used to be, and the length has definitely developed over this past year. I give it a 10 out of 10, and I recommend it to anybody who's looking to prosper in their hair growth journey.
Now, back to the episode. Link is in show notes.
So my question is,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, my question is, um, did you want to have kids? Do you think that it became too late to have children? Like, did you regret not having sex because you wanted to have kids?
So that goes into the other level of sacrifice, and I don't I struggle with the word regret. So I'm not going to use the word regret, but regret might flow into this. So I've had a hysterectomy. I've had a lot of reproductive health issues, and part of in my early 20s, I was diagnosed with fibroids. I had ended up having 2 myomectomy surgeries, abdominal myomectomies to remove fibroids. I had a uterine ablation. I have had ovarian cysts. I've had it all. I had it all, and I've had several procedures. And so, and I used to, when I grew up, I always knew I was going to be a mother with 5 kids, and I was going to be cooking for people and having kids always coming in and out of my house. And so one of the things that, as I got older and this husband wasn't materializing, and I'm making decisions to try to save my uterus, to save all of these things, to do this because I'm gonna have kids. And even I've always been open to adoption. So, but I just knew that I was going to be a biological mother. And when a husband didn't show itself, and I didn't want to have a child outside of a traditional sense because of my view on, I grew up in a 2-parent household. So there came a point, and it was after I had had sex, but all of this was conversion at one time. And so like my therapist had to really help me realize, and she said it one day, like, you have to grieve the life you haven't lived. And, me and God, we have strived and we have struggled and we have, matter of fact, I just did a devotional the other day talking about Jacob Jacob with Israel, because I've had hip surgeries. And I'm like, how Jacob was fighting, me and God, we on fault. And so when I was disobedient and stepping outside of his will and planning, because when I had sex, it was by me planning. It was me planning to be disobedient. And when I made that decision afterwards, I was like, okay, I've done this, but I still also had to struggle with, I've had sex. Am I going to continue to have sex? Where's this man finna come from? I still want to be a mother. And so when 3 years after I've had sex, 2 years after I had sex, and I had to have the decision, I'm finna have a hysterectomy, there was grief there because I I literally, like I was telling my friends, when people be like, do you want kids? Yeah, I want kids. But I can't tell someone I struggle with infertility because I don't know if I struggle with infertility because I didn't have sex. So I made a decision to have a hysterectomy without me never knowing if I could have a kid, without me never trying to have a kid. And so when I alluded earlier that this journey, I would never use the word beautiful, that I will use that it has been sacrificial, it has been one of obedience, is because I have sacrificed things. I've sacrificed the knowledge of, could I have had children if I have had decided to have sex at an earlier age? If I would have just said, let me go ahead and do this, what would my life have been like then? Because people have children out of wedlock all the time. But I made a conscious decision for so long to try to be faithful and to wait for a husband so that I can have children in wedlock. And it never manifested. I'm single. So if y'all knows anyone, hey, send it to me. But I'm single, but I had to make a decision then for my health. This is what it is.
Man,
And so I've paid some cost for the decisions that I've made. I mean, you know how to say count the cost. There has been cost. This has not been an easy journey, but I've also made peace because I have so much joy. I have a life that many people are envious of. Even my friends, my friends with kids, they're like, "Yo, I was gone. I just got back from Costa Rica 2 weeks ago. No, excuse me, a week ago. Yeah, well, I don't even know if it's a week ago because last Thursday I was in Costa Rica. So, I mean, there are things that my life that has been a trade-off for me. But it hasn't replaced that desire. It's just that I've made peace with that desire. And God has been like, there are other things that I'm giving you, and there are other joys and experiences that you will have. And so when people, again, the terminology beautiful, that's why I will never use that word, because I have grieved things in my life because of the decisions that I've made.
yeah. And I stand corrected, and I'm glad you corrected me on that because, on the outside looking in, it could be like, oh, that's so honorable. It's so, it's one of those things where you just kind of, you just really appreciate someone who's able to be disciplined enough to hold themselves in purity and all that stuff for so long. And but for you to say that, now it wasn't beautiful. It was a sacrifice. It was something I had to give up so many different things. And so I definitely stand corrected, and I appreciate you correcting me on that. And I can definitely understand how that journey, probably was, pretty tough. And that was going to be one of my questions. I was going to ask you, do you feel that it was all worth it for you to hold out and be so, you know, for so long and honoring God and that thing? Do you feel like it was worth it?
I don't know if I can answer that question. I'm going to answer it two ways. Would I do it again? Perhaps not. Do I regret that I did it? No. Um, before I made my decision in disobedience, I struggled before in my, I think, early 30s. And so I told this story that I was in the Gambia on a mission trip with my pastor and a couple of other individuals from our church. And we had read a Bible study, and it was about the prodigal son. But then it also talked about the eldest son. And I identified, and I was like, I'm the eldest child. And we talk about the prodigal son and him returning home and the joyousness that the father had, but no one ever talks about, how did that oldest child feel? Like, he stayed, he was obedient, he did this, daddy, but you finna go welcome this man back? But I'm the one that stayed with you. And so I struggled, and then I thought I was good. And so that was a part of my journey of grieving and recognizing that it doesn't mean that God loved me any less. I do think he has honored and is continuing to honor my sacrifice and obedience. I definitely feel that I have favor on my life and that there's blessings that still flow towards me because of that decision. So I can't say that I regret it. I regret the disappointment after the fact that I disappointed God, because my relationship with Christ is paramount to me. And so the fact that I had gotten there's a spiritual term in spiritual formation, and I think it's St. Augustine that brought it up. And it's not biblical, it's not in the Bible, but it's the dark night of the soul, where you're striving and you just really feel like you're fighting against God, and you're like, where are you? Where are you? Why can't I see you? Why can't I feel you? And I think that there were pockets of that in my journey. And so, but without the pockets of that in my journey, I wouldn't be me. And I love me at this point. I understand, and I'm understanding the woman I am becoming and who I've become. And so it's hard for me to regret that. But if someone asked me the question, would I do it over again? The answer would probably be no.
Why? Because then if you wouldn't do it all over again, then you
This
wouldn't
is going
have.
I could tell you the answer, and you're gonna be like, Shaniqua.
Yeah, you wouldn't follow God the way you followed him. You wouldn't believe in him the way you believe in him.
Because, and this is a cop-out answer, I already know what this, I'm telling you, I already know, because I've thought about this, and it sounds so bad. Because at the end of the day, God is a gracious God.
Yeah.
He is a forgiving God. And I may not have been the same woman that I am, but he still would have forgiven me.
Yep.
Because the sin, the debt has been paid.
Yes.
And what I will never know, but how gracious God is that I still could have become this woman. I just may have had a more difficult journey. It just may, again, I believe in God's perfect will and his permissive will. And so it just may have been more convoluted. It may have included more heartbreak, a whole lot of things. I may not have had the level of blessings and favor and things, but God is a gracious God. He is a loving God. And if I would have made that decision at a younger age, God would not love me any less.
Amen.
True that.
That is something that our oldest daughter that we try to get through to her too, because for her, I feel like she thinks that God wants her to be perfect and that there's no room for mistakes.
Mhm.
And I try to tell her that all the time, that Jesus died for your sins. God doesn't mind you making a mistake, because that's how you learn and you build character. He doesn't need a perfect you. He just needs you, right?
Mhm.
So good. That was a great answer. That was a really great answer. I want to know really quick,
Mhm.
do you see singleness as a ministry, as a calling,
Girl.
or a season, or something else?
All of the above, depending on the person and their gifts. I don't think singleness is my ministry, because I have not been called to celibacy. I've always known that. I've just have abstained. I've not been called to that level. I think that that's for someone, but
Not
that
you.
also may be what my future is. I have to make peace of God. If no one ever comes in yokes with me, if I'm never anyone's helpmate, then that's what that is. I do think that just like marriage is a ministry, singleness is a ministry, because I think both of those are things and tools that perfect us as who we are. So Kevin is a part of the tool that is sharpening you to be the woman that you are. Your relationship, your home, your children, all of your experiences. Me as an individual who happens to be single, that doesn't lessen the fact that my life experiences, the people that I meet, the desire in my heart that is unmet, those are still things that are sharpening me and in perfecting me in the image of Christ as well. So I think all of our lives and our experiences in the totality is a ministry to bring us closer together But I also think that they are a ministry that we should testify about the goodness of God and that he should be glorified through it. One of the reasons that, I told you all yesterday is that, I talk about this because I've been asked. And so I was very transparent because I've dealt with some health struggles within the past 2 years. I've actually always dealt with health struggles at this point. Like I'm like, I'm tired of surgeries. I'm tired of all of these things. But for me, it became to the point that I'm not going to be silent because to God be the glory. Like
Mhm.
I literally I've written a couple of books, and my last was a prayer book, and it literally was to God be the glory. And I wholeheartedly feel that one of the things that's missing in the church, the corporate church right now, and I didn't grow up in the church, and I know people used to get up and testify, but most of Jesus's miracles were public. And most of Jesus's miracles, someone went and testified about it. And I think part of the breakthrough that we need in the church right now is that people aren't being as transparent of what God has done. And they're not really pulling back the layers and the nitty-gritty of no, this is how God has delivered me and this is my struggle. Because David, he danced before the Lord. He didn't care who was around him.
Mhm.
And my motto for my life at this point is to be like David with that. I don't care. It's to God be the glory. And so to answer your question, is singleness a ministry? I think life is a ministry.
Mhm. Oh, that's good. Life is a ministry. That's
So,
good.
so tell me this, because there's no way possible anyone could sustain from fleshly desires, right? The desire of the flesh, especially in terms of sex.
Mm-hmm.
Just your flesh alone, you would have failed. You wouldn't have been able to. You had to
Oh,
bring
my
in
flesh alone.
God
Yeah.
had to come in. There was a
Yeah.
spiritual
Yeah.
power
Yes.
and strength that you had to tap into to help you to continue to sustain for so long. What
Mm-hmm.
what what was there any particular scriptures or anything, you know, that you tapped into to continue to help you to be so strong to hold out for so long?
No. And so you know what's also funny? This is might be a little TMI, but so from January through like May, it's like I'm in heat. I'm like, I don't know what it is. Like my body follows the seasons of the year. And I'm like,
What,
this
this
is
year?
ridiculous. I'm sorry.
This year? Or just every
Every year.
year?
Like every year.
Oh,
Every year. So every year will be like, ooh, like I'll be like, okay, I'm be good. And I'll call my friends, be like, oh my gosh. She be like, I know it's January for you. I already know. And I'm like, I just don't understand. It's like my hormones and everything would kick into overdrive. But I can't say that I went to a scripture and be like, okay, God, this is gonna give me strength. I didn't do that. I think it was just more so I just couldn't disappoint God. And again, when I finally decided to have sex, that one time when I decided to have sex, I had shut out me disappointing God because I was rebelling and acting in no disobedience.
mm,
And that's and I reckon like there were things that were leading up to that I knew I was rebelling. I knew there were things, behaviors, discontent in my spirit. I knew it, but instead of me trying to go back and reconcile with God, I was like, I don't want to talk to you about this. I don't want you to make this better. I don't want, because I'm tired of trying to make this better. I don't waited on you long enough. I'm finna do this.
mm.
And so there was never any scripture. I just think before it was just always the fact that I want to honor God. And I just wanted to honor him more than I wanted to honor my flesh.
Okay, so this is gonna sound kind of crass, but
Hmm,
I wanna ask it.
You can.
One, was it all crack? Was it all crack? How am I trying
What
to
it's
say it?
cracked up to be.
No, no, I'm gonna ask it for you because I was gonna eventually ask it anyway. But I want to know was with 45 years of being built up, Was
It was.
how long was the brother in the hospital when you finished with him?
It wasn't even like so. Without going into the details of the mechanics and
I mean, you
everything.
could if you want to, though.
It was it was a pleasurable experience, but it also wasn't as an explored experience as it could have been.
Mm.
So the person that I selected, like, he doesn't live here. At the time, he didn't live in the
Yeah,
US.
She selected. I heard that.
I did. When I tell you, I was in. See, and this is.
So you weren't even looking for a relationship. This was just you wanted to know what it was all about. So it's like
There was attraction with him. So first of all, I looked at him as a homeboy and as a friend. First of all, I want quasi friend, homeboy. Then I realized there was some attraction there between us because he would come back to the United States every couple of months or whatever to visit. And when he would come back, I would see him and I was just like, oh, we hanging out as friends. But the last time we had hung out as friends, I was like, oh, there is some attraction and some other things here. But then once that door was open and I was so discontent and I had just such rebellion in my spirit, I called him up because he was low hanging fruit for me. And I could have asked other men, but other men would have brought more muddied the water. What you say?
They were too close to you.
A little more baggage.
Yeah, they would have brought some, because if I would have asked any of the guys that I had previously like really dated, or that just would have, no. And so he was someone low hanging fruit. After the fact, I probably would have been more open to continue to have a sexual relationship, but then he was gone. And then that's when everything just kind of started to sink in. And then I just realized, okay, this isn't going to be there. And I know he also never wanted a relationship either. I know that he didn't want a relationship because of the business and that he's in. And so I just know his lifestyle wasn't conducive for that. So it's almost like I had set up the perfect person where he wasn't going to necessarily tempt me, but if I wanted to continue to do something, he would have been open, but I couldn't have got caught up. So like literally I used the word methodical with it. In hindsight, it was a very methodical decision. It was a very controlling decision. And yeah, because I wasn't finna get caught up. That wasn't finna be me. So that's why I made that decision. But it is what it was. But God handled me after that. Like, I cannot say that God did not handle me, and he handled me well. Yeah, there was some handling of Shaniqua after that from a spiritual standpoint. And I was just like, okay.
Wow.
You were shaking your head, baby. Why were you shaking your head like that?
It was just my own little personal thoughts.
You done got me out here sharing my personal thoughts, so go ahead and share yours.
No, man, I was just like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, after 45 years and never doing anything and then finally doing it, it just...
You thought it was going to be like...
I thought heaven and earth was, the sky was going to open and everything was just going to be, amazing, but...
I'm not saying it wasn't amazing.
Yeah, right. And I'm not saying that you're not saying that it wasn't. It seemed like it still was a, very great experience, but man,
but usually that
years,
first time, it takes more than that first time.
And it does. I recognize that it takes more. Hence why, if we would have kept going, I think that then maybe I would have gotten caught up, or then maybe, and I do say maybe because of my mentality and who I am, then all of those other things. But then also by that time, again, God has talked to me, and I can't say, like, now that I've done it, and so I can't say, even the guys after that who I've interacted with, they be like, well, come on. I'm like, no. I still have these standards. I still have these things that I desire to see. I still desire love, companionship, emotional intimacy before I'm trying to enter into anything. And so, to be clear, and I again, I said in my 20s, it became me staying a virgin for marriage. I think as I got older, it became at least let me have love in this relationship. And that still is where my mindset is right now. I would like to think that I will not have sex again until marriage. I would really like to think that. I don't know, but I can absolutely say I will not have sex until I am in love and that man is in love with me.
Nice. So
Mm.
quick question or statement. So with my kids, we talk to them about sex. And I would like for my kids before they have sex to of course be married. But even with that, to go and get a test. Everybody have an HIV test done. Everybody have,
Oh yeah.
a STD test done. I mean, your blood. I need to know if you have the sickle cell trait. I need, all of that. This is what I tell my kids. Is that your mind frame as well?
Oh yes. And that's a turnoff also to men. Before you be like, "Oh, before I do anything with you, I need to see your tests." And they're like, "What?
Yeah.
Test? I can show you where I could tell you where to get someone because I don't play about me and my body." And so I've always had that mentality. Even when I wasn't having sex, it's just been that mentality. But
And it's a
that's a
red
turn off for
flag.
men.
It's a red flag if it's a turn off. Like I can
It's a turn.
honestly say I didn't do that with my husband, right? I can honestly say I didn't do that. But as I grew and as I grew older and grew in my self development, that is something that if I had to go back, I would do. Now, thank God that, everything turned out great, 100%. But now that we have kids, that is something that I do talk to them about. And if that person says no or get defensive about it, then that is a red flag.
It is. And the rate
Right.
of HIV is growing within our community, the rate, and it's so when you look at that statistical data, it's funny. I think safe sex and being tested is the thing that everyone knows that they should do, but not as many people do it.
Yeah.
But that has always been paramount for me,
Good.
always.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't play about me like that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Let me see my chart. Here's my chart." Even before I had sex, I always getting screen panels, all of that.
Yeah.
I would always get those,
And I
and
need
my
to be
doctor would be
6
like, "You're
months.
not doing anything," and I'm like, "But I still need you to do this test."
Yeah. It need to be 6 months ago, 6 months or earlier, nothing past a year
Yeah.
or 9 months, you know. So,
So what are you looking for in a man, Shaniqua?
Oh,
What
gosh,
do
so
you
long
want?
list.
What do you
It's a
want?
long list. It's a long,
give us the
long,
top
long,
5.
long list.
Give somebody who's watching the top 5.
So let me premise this by saying my long list is backed up by scripture, and it's not necessarily what most people would think. Like one of the things I have on there is someone who's of courageous of heart, like Benaiah. Um, so or I talk about, someone who's a steward. So a steward of money and resources and all of that. So I've backed everything that I desire to have is scripturally based.
Love
Um,
it.
for me, the number one thing is that he has to be a follower of Christ. His relationship with Christ is non-negotiable for me. Um, I desire someone who can be supportive of me and understand me. I am a very strong-willed woman. And a lot of times, like I've had men say, you don't look like you're gonna submit. I'm like, I would have no problem with submission. And they're like, why do you say that? I said, first of all, I grew up in a two-parent household with my daddy. I know how to submit. But my daddy also raised me to have a voice. And I have to have a man that understands that about me, that not conflating the fact that I have a voice, that I have an opinion, that God speaks to me and that God uses me, meanings that I'm trying to usurp him and his authority. And he would have to know how to handle me and to love me and to cherish me. So I'm looking for a man who could do that. Um I'm also looking for a man who has a similar life lens as far as giving back. Um, Part of my ministry and part of what I do, I desire to give back specifically to the continent, Africa, across Africa, but within the communities that I work. And so I need to be with someone who's a giver or a steward and a giver, because I just don't be giving all of our stuff away and we ain't got nothing. But a steward, but also understand that mentality of giving. And giving is not necessarily just from a money standpoint, although I do need someone who tithes. That's also almost pretty much a non-negotiable. He either has to tithe or be willing to tithe, because I have literally seen the tithe work and not work. And by my own personal example, I'll be like, baby, you don't tithe, but just trust me. Because literally, when I have tithe, I've tithed on money that I want to make. And then 2 months later, I start making that money. I can't tell you how many times I've given 1,000 in a month, 2,000 coming. I've done that. And so I'm a firm believer in the tithe. And so I would want someone who is a tither or who is willing to trust me as his helpmate to be like, just trust me in this. Because if you trust me in this, because I God already done said trust him, but obviously you're not if you're not a tither. Then just trust me in this way. Let's just test this. Height is not much of a difference. One of the guys I've dated was 5'9", so that's not much of a difference to me, but he has to be confident enough in himself. I don't and don't try to shrink me, and I don't mean that from a physical standpoint. Um, that's just kind of I would like for him to be really good with money too. I'm not necessarily the best with money, but I'm pretty decent with it, but I would love for him to be good with money.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
So 5'2" brother, step up. He got a shot. He got a shot. 5'2".
5'2". Come on, Kevin.
5'2",
Hey
5'2"
man,
won't have a shot.
5'6",
5
5'6", 5'6", 5'7".
5'6", 5'7" would have, because I think the guy I dated was like 5'7". 5'7" would have a shot.
Okay.
But I wear heels too, so he has to be understand that I wear heels. I will be
Ooh.
6'4" at one point. I might be 6 feet one day, the next day I'm 6'4", 6'5". So he will have to understand that and not be like, can you not wear them heels? Because I've had men be like, why you wear heels? Because I want to. I look good. You want me to stop? Then we probably not that my mixing.
Right? Hey, wow. So tell me this, man. I mean, what is it that, you think you would like to share that maybe we didn't ask? That's very interesting that you would like people to know about your journey, just in general.
I don't know. I feel like we've covered so much. I think that the main thing that I would want, I have a passion and desire for people to. I'm not the traditional minister,
Mm.
and
Meaning,
I think that that's why God has called me to ministry, is because people have experienced church hurt. People have experienced hypocrisy in the church. They have experienced where they no longer feel that they are loved or cherished by God. And if anything, I would want someone or to invite them to be on the journey with me, for them to recognize that they can be exactly who they are, and even more so their authentic selves, and have a relationship with Christ. That's my passion, that's my mission. I love teaching and preaching the word of God. I love exploring the text, and if anything, I just want people to grow deeper and look deeper than what's been put out there right now.
Amen.
I like it. Well, good deal. Well, hey, man. Now we know. Now we know. Hey, 45 years old, man. 45-year-old virgin. She's shared her story. Shaniqua, we appreciate it, man, for sharing your story with us on Couples
Thank
Connect
you.
podcast. You gave some really, really good insight on your journey and how that has been for you. And we know that it was. Now we know that it wasn't such a beautiful or honorable thing. It was a sacrifice. It was a sacrificial journey that you've been on, and to get to the point to where you are today. But again, like you said, it's made you the woman that you are today. So, and you got to be happy with that, man. You got to be
I
happy and
am.
pleased with the
I
woman you are
am.
today. Because it seems like in the very beginning, you spoke a lot about insecurities and things like that. But to now be a person who's standing firm and solid on knowing who you are, it seemed like it was an amazing journey, man, to get you to this point. So, um, so I love it, man. It was a great story, great session. So, anything you want to share, Mama, before we go?
No, it really was a great story. And thank you for sharing it on Couples Connect podcast.
Yes,
Thank y'all for having me.
absolutely. So, just real quick, where can people find you on social media if they want to kind of connect with you?
I am on YouTube at S Rischer, Instagram, my name, Shaniqua Rischer, Facebook, my name, Shaniqua Rischer, TikTok, my name, Shaniqua Rischer. My website is www.shaniquarischer.com.
Love it.
So if they know how to spell my name, they can find me. And I have a cousin called Sharita, but I don't know anyone else in the world that's named Shaniqua Rischer.
Got it. Well, we're gonna put that information in the show notes and stuff, man, so people can reach out if they want to connect with you, just to make sure they get the correct person when they do try to reach out. So we appreciate your time, girl. And once again, man, hey, tap into this conversation with Couples Connect. You got something you want to say to Shaniqua Rischer? Hey, man. Shaniqua Rischer, man, make sure you put it in the comments. Let her know. Put your question in there, man. We'll let her know that that you asking her questions. She'll reach out to you and connect with you. But other than that, this is Couples Connect. I'm your boy Kev. This is
Tanya.
And we out. Peace.
Bye.